Happy St. Patrick's Day and welcome to Sync, the weekly gaming news show where we give you a TLDR, no BS recap of what's been going on in the gaming industry for March 13th through the 17th of 2020. As always, the bar on the bottom of your screen will fill as each story progresses, so feel free to skip around. All the timestamps along with the sources are in the description, and my name is MikeyDood. Let's get started. This past week, Tarn Adams, the creator of Dwarf Fortress, announced on Steam that the work on the premium version has begun. This announcement comes a year after the initial teaming up with indie publisher Kit Fox Games and roughly a month after the release of version 0.47. This version will be out for the foreseeable future as a small development team start their work on bringing the expansive world of Dwarf Fortress to a wider audience with an overhauled look that changes the ASKI text to graphics, as well as included community-made tools that streamline the game. The current release is, quote, whenever it's done, and we'll keep you updated throughout the year. A surprise release of Halo Combat Evolved on PC came with a few bugs and glitches that 343 Studios are still ironing out. However, that hasn't stopped them from releasing details on the next test flight for the PC Master Chief Collection. The team over at 343 is preparing Halo 2 for testing starting at the end of March, along with Halo Reach Forge and theater modes being added back in, and some bug fixes for Halo Reach and Combat Evolved. If you want to join in on this alpha, the source below will detail how to register. Not all players will get in, but you might be surprised to see a Steam key in your inbox. A few rumors and speculation around a possible reboot of Silent Hill led to a post by website RelyOnHorror.com. The first claim talks about 3 separate series veterans returning for the reboot. The second and less substantiated claim is that Sony is looking into a partnership with Konami to bring the Silent Hills project back into the hands of creator Hideo Kojima. A reboot of the first Silent Hill would be welcomed by longtime fans. Plus, the completion of Silent Hills would round off one of gaming's biggest endeavors. It is also reported that Sony Entertainment might be in talks with Konami in buying the Castlevania, Silent Hill, and Metal Gear franchise. This came in an update later on the website Jack of All Controllers and is sourced below. This purchase could include a remaster of Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2.5 under Kojima Productions if the leak from 4chan is to be believed. Overall, very interesting news, and we will have to wait to see more. Anyone familiar with the firing of Kojima from Konami knows about the bad blood between the two, and Sony might be the mediator needed. A few episodes ago, we brought you the news that Square Enix and Nier Automata creator Yoko Taro were planning something for the 10-year anniversary of the original Drakengard games and its spin-offs Nier and Nier Automata. Now we have been given an announcement of a celebratory 10-hour live stream on March 29th. This live stream will star the unique creator himself, Yoko Taro, sporting his typical headgear and lovable charm, while it gives insight into the history, legacy, and future around a truly one-of-a-kind franchise. Announced by Night Dive Studios, the developers behind many modern restorations of 90s games like System Shock and Turok are bringing the Blade Runner video game to consoles and Steam by the end of the year. Taking place within the same universe as Blade Runner, the game follows Detective Ray McCoy as he explores Los Angeles on the search for rogue replicants. A beloved title that sold over 1 million copies at launch, the original source code was lost when original developer Westwood Studios was bought by EA and forced to move offices. In response to this news, the development team at Night Dive painstakingly reverse engineered the game from scratch, as well as securing the licenses for both the audio and the game itself. Blade Runner is set for release on consoles and Steam toward the end of 2020. Launching this Friday, March 20th, Doom Eternal received a solid launch trailer showing off the fast-paced action Doom is known for, with all new weapons, enemies, and a freaking sword. The Doom Slayer is said to remind the demons that he isn't trapped in hell with them, the demons are trapped in hell with him. If you pick up the game on pre-order, you get a copy of Doom 64 and the Rip and Tear pack, which has a Dude Revenant skin, a bonus Master Campaign level, and a throwback shotgun skin that should feel right at home for any longtime Doom fans. The game launches Friday and is poised to be great, but only time will tell. Reviews should start pouring out when the embargo lifts on the 17th, with review copies already in the hands of content creators. Developer Remedy announced on Twitter the first expansion for their supernatural action-adventure game, Control. Dubbed The Foundation, not much was known initially outside of the short 20-second trailer, but then Remedy followed up with an official trailer release later in the day. The expansion will focus around Jesse Faden, a Federal Bureau of Control agent on the hunt for Marshall, the main protagonist of the game, and his sudden, quote, disappearance following the events of the main plot. The expansion releases on March 26th, and overall it looks like Remedy is committed to build on the universe they have built around Control, like The Witcher did with its expansions. On March 12th, one of the most ambitious projects in the history of Minecraft opened to the world. The Uncensored Library is a project started by Reporters Without Borders in response to growing censorship and increased governmental pressure worldwide to harm journalists and the reportings of events. With this space accessible through any Minecraft client, many forms of online censorship are bypassed, even while social media and other ways of information sharing are being shut off in countries like Turkey and Russia. Minecraft is not blocked, and through this, the idea of the Uncensored Library was born. Built in conjunction with a company called Blockworks, the sheer scale of this project is amazing and is made up of 12.5 million blocks. If you want to go check it out, the server URL will be on the screen and down below. Here at Sync, we want to give a small roundup on the development stemming from the worldwide spread of COVID-19. First, Steam saw record numbers in players logged on at 20 million, and currently in-game at 6.2 million. With more people staying home, none of this is surprising. One fact that is interesting is CSGO reached 1 million concurrent players for the first time in its history, hovering at 8,000 on a normal daily peak. Aside from Steam news, Italy's major ISP Telecom Italia blamed both Fortnite and Call of Duty for an increased strain and small outages across the quarantined country. The last bit of news is that Nvidia calls upon owners of gaming PCs to put that processing power toward good through the use of software folding at home. This software uses extra processing power to assist scientists in their study of the virus. From everyone at Sync, wash your hands, get your gaming rigs ready, and please stay safe. In a blog post last Thursday on the Stadia blog, a deal with Ubisoft was made to bring 3 fantastic titles to the lagging game service. The Division 2, The Crew 2, and Monopoly will be available for purchase to those with access to Stadia. The Division 2 launches on March 17th, including cross-play and cross-progression, and will launch with a new expansion. The Crew 2 launches March 25th, with a Monopoly coming later on April 28th. 3 nice additions to the slowly growing lineup from Google's new venture. Doom Eternal will also launch on Stadia March 20th, although lacking the promised full 4K shown off at the E3 debut last year. The new PvP first-person shooter Valorant from Riot Games dropped a new bit of knowledge this week on the upcoming title. The game will launch with 5 characters unlocked at the start, with the other 5 ready for players to either earn or buy through both in-game and real-life currency. These characters, dubbed Agents by Riot, will be unlockable in a similar way to other free-to-play titles like Apex Legends by using a battle pass that allows for both real and artificial progression through real-life money. It's shaping up to be an interesting disruption to the shooter space, akin to League's entrance into the MOBA field. News has been quiet from Nintendo on the release date of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition since the announcement trailer last fall, which has left fans out in the cold while they wait for its release. This week brought a small surprise as the game was listed in the Nintendo European eShop with 2020 as a release date. After initial launch on Wii, the title was brought over to the new 3DS and now to the Nintendo Switch. As copies for the Wii version can be up to $150 and the new 3DS not selling highly, Nintendo and Monoprice are doing right by fans with this definitive release of the beloved JRPG on the Switch. 7 new titles leaked on Twitter by account The Gaming Revo 2 made some fans excited this week as we learned the possible existence of 7 new titles. The Tony Pro Skater remaster discussed last week, 5 new Call of Duty games, and a Crash Bandicoot The Wrath of Cortex remaster. The leaker also brought up that it might be a new Crash Bandicoot title, not a remaster, but he isn't quite sure. The Modern Warfare 2 remaster, a sequel to the Modern Warfare released last year, and another free-to-play title in 2021. Overall, everything here seems completely possible, and we should hear from Activision soon about some of these titles. Speaking of Call of Duty, drawing in 6 million players in 4 days, Call of Duty Warzone broke previous records set by Fortnite for the first week numbers. Previously 10 million in 2 weeks, Warzone plowed through that number, hitting 15 million in just the first 4 days. Through its addictive gameplay loop and familiar setting for Call of Duty fans, it is starting off strong with all sorts of gamers. But will it last? With the sheer number of Battle Royale games, the genre has reached a point of ambiguity. Apex Legends reached 25 million players in their first week, but has fallen down to roughly 8 million. It will be interesting to see how Activision keeps this game alive after its initial bump. Have you been playing Warzone? Tell us about it down in the comments. Path of Exile's new expansion, Delirium, released this past Friday right after publication of our last video. Delirium tasks players with fighting a corruption of their own minds, forcing the world into a hazy and crazed state where enemies only found in the horrors of the mind will rush you. Nightmares will spawn and you will be tasked with clearing them before the corruption takes over entirely. This new mechanic drops the player into a series of rooms with almost no ability to discern friend from foe, chest from monster, or if something is about to kill you or save you. This leads to some very exciting, heart-pounding, and sometimes a swift death to something outside of the player control. So get in quick. Path of Exile leagues are defined by a specific mechanic that may or may not be kept after the seasonal league ends. Delirium is one prime to be improved on, but still an enjoyable experience. Paradox Games dropped a feature breakdown trailer of the Federation's expansion. This content expansion brings all new ways of going about your government and others with improvements to trade and diplomacy. The update includes expanded federations to join governments together, a new feature dubbed the Galactic Community, origins to each of the races, and new constructions to help facilitate these additions. All of these are focused around providing the player with non-violent means to solve tension and to bring Stellaris more in line with other 4X genre titans like Sins of the Solar Empire 2. The expansion comes out today, March 17th, and looks like a solid addition. In this last piece, we are bringing you a small but impressive update on the PS3 emulator RPCS3. Side note, we do not endorse piracy and do not support illegal sharing of proprietary system files. TLDR, the fundamental nature of emulators requires files that are not allowed to be copied from the system. Let's get to the breakdown. The point of this update is to show off the improvements to the Vulkan renderer. This change brings an increase of roughly 10 frames per second across the board compared to the previous OpenGL renderer. Games like Ratchet & Clank Tools of Destruction and Yakuza run much smoother now, with the infamous Red Dead Redemption port showing some of the biggest improvements with its large draw distance and rendering no longer tanking the emulator. Work continues over on their website if you're looking for more information, but it is still under heavy development. Alright everyone, that's Sync for the 13th through the 17th of March. If you haven't subscribed yet but you'd like to, you know exactly where that button is. Lastly, let us know what you've been playing in the comments, and once again, thank you for watching and we'll see you next week here at Sync.